Okay, so we're back yet again, and I haven't got anything done because I'm uh, in 2 days. Now, tomorrow, I'm supposed to pick up the keys to my new apartment, so that it's been keeping me busy trying to get everything organized and try to. I wanted to sort stuff and throw stuff away, but I decided I don't have time to do that. So tomorrow I can start moving stuff into there. And I've got just yesterday rented a second storage unit, so I've got room to put stuff now. I just have to sit down and load my car and haul it over and put it in. So the saga will continue. We'll just eventually move on to that. The other thing I got done, I got the Slack backups done, and let me try this. Share screen. Let's go to this screen. And let me go to Slack. I'll just pull up the message so I don't have to think about this or type it. So, okay, here's the message here. Let me see if I can make that bigger. So if you go out to Slack, our Slack channel, so the message is on Sunday, March 9th. And then here it basically just says, this is the directory where I keep all the stuff. So it's got three chunks of backups in there. And then I posted the actual links here. So it basically just says, go out to my directory under Slack exports. And then this is the 201, what's it say? 218.01.23 to 2024.04.3. That's the first chunk. That was the big one, like a year and a half long or whatever it was. And then it just simply says, anyway, if you click on that link in Slack, or I'll copy and paste those into the description this time. So yeah, you don't even have to try to write these down. I'll paste it in so you can look under the notes slash whatever I call that section. So if you have any interest in looking at the old Slack stuff, and this is the 3 random channels that I backed up. The first one also had general, it had RTK, and it had the something ECU. Those are still there. You just have to get say on the link here where it says random.html, you have to change that to either general HTML or ECU HTML. And you can see those if you go back to this top directory structure. You can go into the one for this particular chunk of dates, and in there you'll see there will be at least 3 HTML files. So you can open an HTML file, it just comes right up on your computer, you can view it, but you cannot go, like normally you'd come over here on here they are right there. It says common ECU, general, and RTK are the other ones. So right now, if you're running actual Slack and I click on RTK, it goes to the RTK channel like that, or you go to the general channel like that. But if you're pulling up these ones that I've recreated, it's only got the one channel there in front of you. So if you click on the one that says, let's go back here, random. So right here under random, when you start this up, all you can see is the random channel. It'll have the links there, but if you click on them, it says they don't work. So what you can do is you can just open, say over here on the right, it's got 3 different ones listed. You can open all 3 at the same time, and then just switch back and forth on the tabs on your computer to see those. And if you want the original stuff with the common ECU, the general, and the RTK, you can also open those. Those are out there in the directories. It would be handy if I just create an HTML page that says, here's the different things you can do, and you can just click on it directly. But I haven't got around to that because I've been busy. So anyway, I've got that done. And this does go back to, it says 2018, but it's actually, I think we started using the channel in 2021. So from 2021 to 2025 of this month, we've got all the stuff backed up. And I think we've got all the pictures and the files and everything. It doesn't work exactly like Slack, but it works close enough that you should be able to figure it out. And so therefore we haven't lost it completely. So that stuff's out there if you want it. Anybody wants to check that stuff out. So I think that's all I wanted to say. So I'll turn it over to Al now. Wait, let me stop sharing. Oh yeah, I'll turn it over to Al.
Okay, let's go back to Slack. Since we last met, a couple of things going on. This is radio control module that I've spec'd out for, I'm going to call it my 2nd generation lawn tractor, and I was trying to get the parts lined up on that. I put out a parts list just for chuckles. That looks like this. So there's about 15 parts, plus or minus. This is what the schematic looks like. I had to reorder that PCB from PCB Way. Takes basically a week from the pushing the button to the time DHL delivers it on your door, which is nice. $55 for 5 pieces, double-sided, and I got all those parts. I got to figure out whether I needed a 0.33 UF capacitor or 3.3 UF capacitor. So couldn't. Was trying to figure out where did I get that. I didn't. I mean, I'm not an electrical engineer, so it's over there between the incoming power and this 5 volt regulator. But anyway, so that what that looks like in practice is I've got sharing on, so let me turn off sharing because I think you say that's better. So that's what that looks like. And I've just begun the process of soldering those things down, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself before I test some of the components. So I've got to mount the teensy there and get that going.
Well,
What it,
I have something for you to think about as you move forward on this. I'm assuming you don't have any spring return to zero on your forward velocity. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you put a pot on yours, so you can set the speed and leave it there. Now, I think you said those pots have a notch in the middle, so theoretically, if the thing's running right at your house, you can turn it back to feel the notch. But I'm thinking in a panic, it would be nice if you don't have to, have a tedious thing like trying to find an indent on your pot. So what I was thinking is you might consider set your velocity so it goes from 0 to 100%. So you turn it all the way off and that zero speed, and then you turn it all the way up that's maximum speed, and then have either a switch or a push button that says, "Oh, I really want to be going in reverse as opposed to forward." And that way that will allow you to, in a panic mode, you don't have to fiddle around with it. You just say turn it all the way off, and then it will. And then if you go forward, so you're either going 0 speed or you're going some forward speed. And then if you want to back it up, then you can set it back to 0 speed, and then either hold a button or flip a switch and say, now I want to give you speed, I want you to back up. So that's one way around the fact that you don't have a spring return to 0. And you can think about that and decide if that's important to you or not. So, but at this point, it looks like it's just a matter of software, what you're going to do with it. So there you go.
yeah. So if in the use case that you were talking about, if it's running, about to run over the neighbor's cat, I've got 2 options, as you said, fiddle around with the speed control, which would be this left pot, and find that middle point. The other is I can flip the mode switch to neutral, which is programmed to bring the hydrostatic transmission to neutral. Or I could push the kill switch, which is this larger push button, and shut the motor off. So when you say spring, tell me again one more time on the spring loaded part of that. That's what I was trying to think
Like,
through.
if you buy a joystick, typically, the joystick is centered.
Right.
You can push it forward, and when you let go, it snaps back to the centered position, or you can pull it backwards. When you let go, it snaps back to the centered position. So I'm just thinking, you don't have that ability to do that here. And
Definitely not.
and then you're also saying you didn't want springs on your joysticks anyway if you had a joystick, but this way, and that's why I'm thinking you just bypass the whole mess by just saying, don't allow that pot to go in reverse. That way you can just quickly crank it all the way
Jam it
back to,
over.
yeah, just jam it over and it should stop. And that way then
Yeah.
you need something extra to say, no, I really want to back up now. So you can either have a switch or a push button or something to tell it, you know, and you can add some extra logic that says if you're driving forward at some speed and say you have a push button, you hold on the push button, you don't want it to immediately try to jam into reverse. You want to say, oh, well, I've got a request, but I'll wait till the speed is set back to 0. Then I'll allow it to back up. So just more things you can think about there, figuring out, how you want to run the thing. And once you get it hooked up, start driving around, it'll become more obvious, how it
Yeah,
feels and what you want it to do.
because I have absolutely in the first version, turned the speed potentiometer to reverse in error because I was freaking out. So yeah, these two smaller push buttons, they're they're available for programming. So I just put those on for excess at the moment. So those would be options too.
Also on your e-stop button, the one's going to kill your engine. Have you thought far enough ahead on that? Is it as you hold that down, that is killing your ignition, and if you let go, the ignition comes back and it'll start running again? Or is it the point where if you could set up so it's say if I detected the e-stop, then in your code just simply say, okay, kill the engine and keep it off until something else happens. And I don't know if you'd have another push button or a switch, flip your mode switch, and it says, oh, okay, well, now I'm allowed to let the engine run again. So that might be another thing that you just more say logical things you can think about of how you want that to actually work.
Yeah, if I in the today world, um, I would if I want to keep the motor running, but I want it to stop, I put it in the down position here, which is neutral, but the motor keeps running. If I press this, the motor stops and it won't. The only way I can restart it is go back up to the tractor and restart it because I don't have my ignition is not under digital control um, at this point, and I'm for safety reasons I might not ever put it under digital control. But
Well, you have the other point there, whereas if you push the button and then release it, your engine's going to go, start back up again. It's
it
like
would it
on
could
my
possibly do that.
Yeah, because on my lawn tractor, I'll drive around the yard. If there's a stick on the ground, I'll lean over to pick up the stick, which takes me off the seat, and my engine goes into kill mode and starts winding down. But if I quickly sit up again, then the engine recovers and starts again. So that you'd still have that, by pushing this button on here, you could make it do that if you really wanted to. But I
Yeah,
was just thinking, if it detects the fact you push that button, you may want to have extra logic that says, "Oh, I'm going to make sure the engine stops completely until you physically go back over and monkey with it, and then as you say you have to walk up to it to start it anyway, so that you've got all these options there in front of you, but that's just more things to think about.
you're right because I don't. It in my logic now. I'm maybe incorrectly, but I'm going to call it latching. Pressing this isn't sort of a latching function. It's you got to hold it down until the motor stops spinning. It would operate exactly like that seat switch that you talked about in the current way that I've got the software.
Yeah. Oh, also on mine, I don't know if yours works the same way, but if you're driving around the yard and you want to back up, you just say, okay, now what's on mine, just the stick backwards and you should start backing up. But if your blade is running and you try to back up, that kills the engine too. So that always takes me by surprise. So I start to back up and the engine starts to die. And if you want to back up, there's a yellow push button on the dashboard. You have to hold the yellow push button down and then pull back on the thing and it'll start backing up. I think it latches that. So then once you come to a stop, that the latch part drops out. So that's just more things to something else that works the same way, where it detects a problem and starts to kill the engine. And if you notice ahead of time, you can reverse what you just did, and the engine will go back to running again. So just more things. And again, on yours, you just have to go through and say, how does it actually work, and how does that how do you want it to work from your remote control stuff?
I haven't tested that cutting in reverse yet, so but because you're right, before I tore it all apart, it did have that that additional step you had to go through in order to get it to cut in reverse. Okay, so I've got this and need to finish soldering my components on it to get ready for springtime. Let's see, make this a little bit bigger. What else? So, you know, me trying to make things more complicated than they need to be. I've been spending time on Fusion 360 because I have this sort of layout where these are the frame rails, and I've had these cut, which I'll show you a picture of what those look like cut in a second. But I'm like, well, if I got these frame rails, then maybe I can put the tires and the rear axle on this too, because I need to, was going to redo my odometer data to use one of those, you know, those induction deals. And so I thought, oh, well, I'll try to put the tires and the axle on that same 3D design. Before I go through that anymore, I'll just, so these are what my, so these are 1.5 inches wide, 1/4 inch thick. I mean, it's 40 pounds of metal there. He said it ended up being like 2 square feet of metal to make all that. So that I'm going to be adding a little bit of weight, but it needs weight because the wheels spin when the grass is a little bit wet. So those are ready for me to piece together and see how those fit. He said the plasma cutter did a decent job of knocking out these holes, but there's a couple that need to be drilled out. I think if you look closely there, you can see that one. There's still some remnants of something there, and actually I think there needs to be a bend there. Anyway, a little bit more work to do on those pieces, but we're close. So anyway, as I was talking about Fusion 360, I spent time sort of teaching myself using YouTube videos how to model a tire and get a little bit of tread on there and get the height of it to be designed. But what took me a little bit more doing is how to get the tire and the wheel in the same deal. So today I've had a little bit of success of getting something that's close enough in my mind to use. And these are notes that I have in my OneNote, and so I've got some parameters set based on either my recollection or the measured size of the tire and wheel. So that's been, well, I guess I'm just not a very good student, so it's taken me quite a while, and I've got some notes in here on how I went through making those plots and making the tire thickness and revolving that and mirroring that and adding a tread design. The design doesn't match exactly the tread design of the tire, but it gives you some sort of texture that makes it a little bit more like a tire. And so
How did you get to that stuff we were just looking at there?
this is in my OneNote. I mean, I could make a PDF of it or something, or I can share the OneNote, but I think people would have to have a Microsoft account in order to be able to see it, because they've got to share
Okay, I just thought if
feature.
if it was something you wanted people to see, we'd put the link in here, but if it's not, that wasn't the intent, and we won't worry about it.
So anyway, that's where Where I'm at is I've got a 3D model of a tire, and I was going to try to put an axle in there and figure out the dimensions for mounting my induction sensor to get odometry data. And all this is for version 2 of the tractor. That's where I'm at today. I think that's all I had in Slack.
What was it, like last week or so? I posted that because uBlocks, not uBlocks, ArduSimple sent me something saying, "Oh, by the way, we got yet another new board, and uBlocks has come out with a uh, new chip that they put on a board, and there was something they called it triple band or multi band or all band or something." And I posted some things there in Slack about. Let me see if I can find it here. And they've got several articles they've written, and they say, what does all band mean? And it turns out all band is L1, L2, and L5 and L6. Now it turns out L6 is not actually GPS. That's a channel where you get correction data. So if they have satellites transmitting correction data down directly from the satellite, this L6 is what do they call that? I can't remember what they call that, but anyway, there's just, that's another way that people will do this stuff, where they can send you, if you subscribe to their stuff, then they send you this stuff over the extra channel. So they had the articles talking about that, and
Wow, that's neat.
there we go. There we go.
Not that I need another rabbit hole to go down, but Terry mentioned that visual thing using the QR-like code. I'm curious to see how that, not that I'm going to take time to go down that rabbit hole, but that's a whole nother way of potentially localizing.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
that's just another standard thing in ROS that they let you do that. They're called AR tags or April tags or something like that. But that is just something that is available out there, and so that's just one more thing you can put in your bag of tricks. So let's see. I found the stuff here. Let me see. Share. This one, and of course this is in my way, isn't it?
No, I see ArduSimple.com blog.
Yeah, but all the buttons and everything was on top of my screen, so I couldn't see it. I turned to like move those. So on in Slack on March 7th, it says I got this thing from ArduSimple, and so if you go to this page called the ArduSimple.com blog, that's their news and something else. It's their blog and news page. And then I said, here's the first three articles that were on that. They're saying, what's the difference between all band, quad band, triple band? It says, what's the real difference? That's where they're explaining the thing about the different satellite bands you can get, and then that fourth band. Oh, that out of the world they call that L band, I think. So you have an L band receiver, and that picks up correction data that people will send out. But I think that's all. I was gonna say it's all subscription, but I think somewhere, if you read through these articles, I think it said that the Galileo system does put out a free correction for their stuff, and but that would just be one of the 3 or 4 normal bands you're running. So, but it's just something else to look through that and see what they're talking about there.
Neat.
And I personally don't need any new GPS stuff. So down here it's just showing it's showing the 3 different articles, and it does look like it is very confusing that they say L1, L2 or L1, L5. You got L1, L2, and L5, and then they got the L6 they're putting on, which is the other, which I think is just for correction data. I think that L6 actually comes off the geosynchronous satellites and not off the individual. There's what 100 actual GPS satellites out there, but I think if you go to like Telstar or whatever the name of the geosynchronous satellites is, I think that's where this L6 band actually comes from. And they basically, whoever that is doing the correction data, they just contract with this company and say, put my data out, and they do, and somehow it magically works. And I've never looked into that.
I
And
wonder if states like, Minnesota, you can subscribe to state provided correction data, right? I wonder if they'll put their, in Indiana, the state of Indiana, you can subscribe. I could have subscribed, well, I did, but I'm never there to use it. I wonder if they'll put their L6 data out.
I'm not sure because I know there's the people. What's that? What was that first GPS receiver that came out that Matt bought the first one on Kickstarter and then they came out with the real one. They make a Duro and they make a whatever that one is. I think Juan also has that one. But anyway, those people will offer you a correction service, but I think they want you to then use it over cell phone or something. So that I don't know of anybody that's actually like a third party that's doing that. But people like like Novotel and all those big companies, they will, and I'm sure John Deere, that's probably the way their stuff works. They put out their data over those. So basically you just turn the thing on and it sees the satellites and everybody's up and running and happy. So back to those articles. The first article is saying what's the difference between these, and they're explaining this stuff. So here's the second article. It says what's the difference between a comparison between the ZF9P, which is the one I have, or the ZX20P. That's the new one with the all this extra fancy support. So that's one of the articles. And then the third one was, I think they're just talking about the Simple RTK4 Optimum. This might be the actual board that they're selling. Yeah, that's the board they're selling. So they're just talking about that. So anyway, that showed up, and it's interesting reading. And they probably got hundreds of articles there that it might be worth sometimes just digging through to see what they've presented and what's out there. So that might be it's just a reminder to me. Yes, they have those articles out there. And back to my point, I don't need any extra GPS stuff right now, so I'm not like. Oh, the other point was, it turns out this board is not much more expensive than the ones I have, but it's got the newer chip and the better capabilities on it, because they were selling one from Septentrino, I think is what it's called, and it was L1, L2, and L5, but they wanted like $600 for that board. So this is a case of they come out with something better, but it's not much more than what I paid for it. So that's just more things to consider, and maybe look down the if you're going to go down this path someday, be sure you research all this stuff and see what's out there before you spend a lot of money. And but we'll ask Al before you spend a lot of money on this stuff. So anyway, that's something that did come up. Let's see. I'm not sharing anymore, am I? No, I don't think so.
No, unrelated. I did not. Did you happen to listen in on Homebrew Robotics?
I started and I got a few minutes into it and I was bored and I moved on. So I don't know, because Camp immediately was gonna show his robots and show his show the stuff he's working on, and I just didn't. I wasn't in the mood for that, so I just moved on. So I don't know if they did anything after that or not.
That's all for me.
Okay.